Hello, welcome back. In October 2020, I bought a huge watercolor haul from AliExpress. I saw these gorgeous layered watercolors and I knew I needed them, but not long after, Schmincke released the super granulating line, which began my obsession with unique watercolors. These are the Supervision Layered Watercolours. Each of these labels on the Supervision Layered Watercolours shows the range of what the color will look like on paper, like this one with the light blue and dark blue. My favorite is the one with the teal to peach mixture called Rose Ash. I couldn't help it but also pick up these 4 Paul Rubin colors that are supposedly dupes for the popular granulating Daniel Smith colors, and a bunch of Supervision pens that also apparently granulate. Except for the lavender, that one definitely doesn't, but it is still a pretty color. With the AliExpress haul, I got a trio of Supervision Artist watercolors, 2 brushes, 2 of these colorful galaxy looking tin palettes. This one's in pink and the other one is green with empty pans. I won't go over most of these items in this video, but just focus on the layered watercolors. I do like how these metal palettes don't have the metal insert in the middle, and so I can snugly fit 4 rows of pans and don't need any tape to hold them down. The pans are rounded but basically the same size as any normal 2mm half pan? Quarter pans? Not half pans. These took forever to open. After the sticky label was removed from the back, there was a plastic case similar to the protective packaging that prevents children from swallowing batteries, and then underneath that is shrink wrap. On the listing of the paints, there was no information about the pigment, so I didn't realize that some of them included ingredients like plant, mineral, and animal. I'm assuming the animal part is the red dye made from the beetles, but I'm not 100% sure because it's just animal.
One eternity later.
When I pour paint into a pan, I like to squeeze paint into each of the corners then fill in the rest of the pan. I've seen some people mix it with a toothpick and make it flat. I think it also mixes the binder, but I feel like that wastes paint even if it's a teeny bit, so I like to just pound it on the table a few times and it removes any air. And after many hours, the palette is all set up. I'll be honest, I ended up swatching these paints many times because each time the paint behaves differently with different papers, salt, amount of water, and just how I applied it onto paper. I filmed 4 different swatches and loved how each swatch turned out while watching the video and seeing the changes on paper when the video is sped up. It's really magical. So the separation of the colors, the granulation, if I can say that, except these don't really feel like that sort of granulation. It's almost like one color is dye as the base and then the other separates on top. Kind of like water and oil. So yeah, one of the colors spreads like water and then the other one just sits there. There are 2 royal purples in this palette. One is from Paul Rubens and the other one is made by Supervision. They are both dupes for the Rose of Ultramarine by Daniel Smith, but cooler with more of a blue tone. I do like the Supervision one more. That's the lower left square. The other dupe that I can also see is the Paul Rubens Christmas Green and Supervision Cathedral Green for Daniel Smith's Undersea Green. The Paul Rubens one is, well, to say the least, disappointing. It's just green, but the Supervision one is gorgeous with clear blue and green separation. The other 2 colors that I can sort of see, but not 100% a dupe, are from Paul Rubens. They are Moonlight Purple and Shadow Purple, which supposedly are dupes for Daniel Smith Moonglow and possibly Lunar Blue. Oh, and the paper ended up slightly speckling on some of the swatches. Not because of the paint, so ignore that. I just hoard paper too much. These are the first swatches that I ever did. I probably didn't use enough water and the paint was almost a solid color of the two mixed together. It really didn't do the paint any justice. I used my cotton rag Cardi sketchbook on the third set of swatches and look at the difference. These last two swatches are on cellulose and cotton paper. The cotton one on the bottom definitely brought out the paints to their potential more than the other, but they both look amazing. I learned the more water you use, the better the separation, so that little tip will be how I control the way I use these colors and control which color it leans towards. I mentioned before that I played with salt on these. I didn't experiment on all of them, there was just too many. Just the ones that have two wildly different colors, and the effect is pretty cool, but kind of iffy with the dotted texture. Very alien-like and yuck. Gives me the heebie-jeebies. Alright, speed painting time. All the purples and blues made me think of a galaxy or soft sky, so I decided to paint a moon bunny. There are certain places that I want to keep light and not have any of the cooler tones on, so I use masking fluid on it. I just realized how thick I applied it. I put down bucket loads of water on the paper to get the most of the separation in the background. The purple spread so happily along the water. I love how it charges. With Bun Bun, I used a warmish brown like a cream color, but I didn't realize it had a green undertone, and that made Bun Bun look like a zombie. I had my fingers crossed for the blush that I put on him, and unfortunately that red had an undertone of blue. That will eventually surface as it dried, so it made Bun Bun look even more of an undead bunny. And rotting. I got the reddish color from the rose ash by letting water sit on the pan, and then the red was surfaced to the top and the blue sink on the bottom, which I can tell from the swatches because it felt like the red was more of the dye and the blue was more of the granulating pigment on top, so because it granulates its larger particles and so it will sink. From that way I can use the red by itself. I think my biggest mistake was probably making the moon that dark. I had a lot of blackish colors that I wanted to use and seeing moons where it's illustrated in a full circle with black where the crescent doesn't show up. I thought I can do a reverse of that so it wasn't too yellow in this painting, but it's just dark. Let's not forget Bun Bun's sleepy red eyes. He's so cute. The styles were from the red-yellow paint by doing the same technique of letting the water sit in the pan and picking up only the yellow that surfaces. When all the paint had dried completely, I used this weird texture rubber that makes removing masking fluid easier. It was so fun, it's like pulling out dried PVA glue off my hand. I did rip a teeny area on the biggest blob because I pulled it, but it wasn't as bad as it normally would be if I had rolled it off the paper with my finger. I lightly tinted the edges of the clouds and used it as a shading color, and it just looks dreamy. Around the stars, along with all the white circles to create a glare of light, I painted a soft halo of yellow and oranges to add to that dreamy effect that I wanted. Lastly, I defined the areas with coloring pencils, and Bun Bun sleeping on the moon is done. I really love how there is a mixture of textures even when all the paints are supposedly granulating. I enjoyed these paints so much that I purchased the most recent effect watercolors that Supervision has, and I know I have fun with that too. So until next time, happy painting, bye!